Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the live stream this evening. We've got a fun evening scheduled, and my guest tonight is Megan with Lindinhof Dressage. Lindinhof Equine Sport Zentrum in Wisconsin, and I see she's arrived. We are going to go ahead and bring her in. Welcome to the live stream, Megan.
Hey everybody, how are you? Hey Steph.
Hey, how are you?
Living the dream, baby.
Living the dream. Excellent, excellent. Well, welcome and thank you again for doing another live stream.
Of course.
I moved everything around a little bit. I'm trying to figure the lighting out, and I think it's a little glary, but it's either like really, really bright or not bright enough.
The right side of your face is glowing.
Yeah. That's the lighting. There's only like this lighting from like the front and the right. So
it's all good.
It's all good. So tonight we thought we would talk about showing in the current situation, which is showing with dealing with COVID, right?
Yep. Let's talk about it.
So before we get into that, I've got Denise on here as a moderator. Thank you, Denise. If anybody, we'll try to remember to remind people as the stream goes by, but I'll quick post a comment. The live stream chat via YouTube is always available for questions. If you have questions for Megan, put them there. I'm going to put that on there right now. We are on via, Megan, if you can point out your StreamYard over your head. We're on both on via a program called StreamYard. So the live chat is delayed for us, probably 30 to 40 seconds. But it does eventually show up for us, and I can do things like this. Flash any questions somebody might have on there. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the live chat if they are relevant to, of course, the discussion this evening, which is showing during COVID. Also, we appreciate you guys supporting the channel. If you are tuning in when this is available upon demand after the live stream on YouTube, please watch it with the ad blockers turned off. YouTube likes to get paid. They like to get their bills paid to allow us to do this for free. So, you know, we appreciate that they will host this for us and provide that service free of charge in exchange for running your little ads. So appreciate that. We also have, if you want to support the channel, we have two options via the live chat. We have super stickers, and there are super chat supporters. Those are available to purchase through YouTube via the chat feature. So of course, would appreciate any support of the channel as well. So yeah, don't forget, if you have questions, post them in the live chat, just like we have here. I can flash it on the screen. So I think that's about all the usual housekeeping. We get underway, don't we, Megan? Right?
We do. Yep.
The usual drill. So I see our friend Jeremiah is here. Mr. Subscribing to everyone who subs to me. Hey, Jeremiah. Thanks, bud, for being here. I will make you a second moderator here in a second. So Megan, it's been kind of a year for people wanting to show their horses. Here in the Midwest, where you and I live in the Midwest, you know, the season doesn't start too early because of our weather, although there is indoor winter shows. But you know, COVID kind of started to rear its ugly head in the U.S. in January, and it got pretty scary by, I'd say, March, right?
Yeah.
And when do the outdoor spring shows kind of start in the Midwest? April or
May?
May. Okay.
And this year they started in June because the USEF suspended our shows until June 1st.
So USEF is the national governing body of equestrian sports for the Olympic sports, which would be, people are familiar with show jumping, dressage, 3-day eventing. I think the United States is pretty familiar. It used to be called the Kentucky Rolex 3-day event. It is now the Land Rover Kentucky 3-day event, but there are other sports. There's vaulting, there's reining, there's some other stuff. There's driving, I believe, and a few others. But just so people are aware, that is our national governing body for the sport Megan is talking about tonight. So they all the shows have to fall under their rule book and guidelines. So as you mentioned, when they suspended the shows, that left any what we call recognized shows no can do. So
Yep. They were all canceled, and unfortunately, all the show organizers had to cancel their shows, which is hit them financially as well as also last minute. Last weekend, Pony Cup Finals was canceled the day before. All the competitors were supposed to start competing. I think there was another hunter jumper event that was also canceled. So yeah.
So the other thing is when you're talking outside of our sport and Pony Cup stuff, that was it show jumping or was it a dressage show or what was it?
I think it's hunter jumper.
Hunter jumpers, yeah. So the other thing is the largest show in really like horse show in the world is the American Quarter Horse Congress, and that has been canceled this year. And in the 50+ year history of the Quarter Horse Congress, that has never happened. That show it goes on for a month, a solid month. I mean, it's enormous. So the economic impact of that show alone being canceled, not only on the local, the local people, the hotels, everything going on the show. Think about the vendors who show up. If they're being a 1 month show, they get enormous vending. I mean, it's a ginormous event. And unfortunately that economic impact trickles throughout the industry because all the trainers who go to that show,
the trainers, the grooms, the braiders,
everybody. So
everyone. It hits everybody.
Yeah. So yeah,
So
it's pretty bad when things like that happen, and of course it's because of this pandemic. So
and so the shows that are able to continue as competitors, I think we all feel very fortunate that we get this opportunity. On one hand, though, I do feel that if we're under a lot of stress, maybe we're not ready. It's okay to stay home because I think it's really important. I think I want to convey with this feed is that it's really difficult. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Competing during this is very difficult for the show organizers. My understanding, I don't know because I'm not a show organizer, but my understanding is they've had like a month's worth of trying to get ready financially. It's more expenses for them. They need more volunteers to manage and to watch whether people are wearing masks. A lot of the judges are not able to attend due to travel restrictions. So really, it's a lot of stress for everyone, not only the show organizers, which I think actually have a large burden, but also the competitors. And so showing's hard enough, and then to do it now, it makes it really, really difficult. And there's no problem with staying home and training.
Yeah.
Really.
So let's back up a little bit and kind of talk about that. So I think normally you probably are having some clinics, right, hosted at your farm. You bring in clinicians about that.
Yep.
So I think
I've canceled all of my clinics. We haven't hosted any clinics. I just believe my mother lives on the farm. She's 70. Due to travel restrictions, trying to organize, I started thinking about food. If we made food, because we always make food, and it just started to add up to all the stress of putting it on, and then I would feel terrible if someone got sick and I helped spread the virus. And so I chose to cancel all my clinics.
Well, and travel is really difficult now, and this goes for clinics and the judges and technical delegates that are required to come in for these horse shows. The airline industry obviously has been hugely impacted by this, and a lot of flights that normally happen are just not happening, or they're being canceled because their airline just figures it's easier to cancel versus, running these planes back and forth with hardly anyone in them. So it really does make things difficult. And, that's feeds back into the economic impact. It wasn't just the show organizers and the trainers and grooms and breeders and things, but even, the judges weren't able to go out and judge. So there's no income for them there. And, this really has been a problem for everyone.
Mm-hmm. It hits, we're all connected. I think it's hitting all of us.
For sure. So let's go back to talking about the United States Equestrian or United States Equestrian Federation, USEA. They obviously, as our national governing body, it is their rule book that the shows are run under. But let's talk about the specific rules they have put in place for the pandemic for the horse shows that the show organizers must adhere to, as well as participants.
Prior to last weekend, it was a little bit more lax. They did ask that we stay 6 feet apart or wear a mask.
So it was either or?
It was either or originally.
Of course, we should interject that local or state rules may apply for a horse show grounds.
Yeah. I've been to 2 different horse shows. And at one horse show, due to their county, prior to entering the showground every day, we had to have our temperature taken and we had to sign a release form, as well as a questionnaire with, I don't know, let's say 10 questions. And that was every day.
Wow. So anybody entering the showgrounds had to have their temperature taken, signed. So what was the waiver? Like, that entering you may be exposed, or what was the...
It was another USDF release form that we needed to sign.
Okay.
The questionnaire was for the farm itself and the county, because my understanding, I don't know, is that the county is trying to close down the show itself. So they don't even want it to carry on. So we had to sign, 10 questions, yes or no, whether we have had COVID, whether we've been tested, whether in the last 14 days we were in a different state. And if we answered yes to any of these questions, we were not allowed on the showground. If we had a high temperature, we were not allowed on the showground. So they were very vigilant from the very first moment we drove onto the property. The other competition was definitely more lax. However, they did ask us to wear face masks when we were up by the competition arenas, or if we were within 6 feet at our stalls, like the stalls that we were at, there was no one near us. We did not socialize with other competitors, and they were fine with us not wearing a mask. That was prior to this last weekend. I did like that showground because they did have a very nice woman driving around in a golf cart, just kindly reminding us to wear a face mask. At the other showground, it was kind of like a firing squad. I think every 10 minutes they were on the sound system, reminding us about social distancing, about masks. Anytime any official saw us, they were on us like a duck on a June bug. And I have to say it was very difficult, especially because when you're in a group and you come from a barn, you already consider yourself a part of a group. And we stayed within our group. We also had a cookout, so we didn't go to any restaurants. We didn't socialize with any competitors. And it's hard. And one was a mother-daughter. It's very hard to not be close. And then, outside of that, we're spending all this time together and coming from a barn. And so we were also asked like no pictures, no posting pictures, no standing next to one another for our pictures, which is extremely difficult in the sense I'm just talking logically. I'm not against the mask or wearing the mask near other people, but when we're already in a group and this is a special moment for someone, and I'm talking about 3 people, the rider, the owner, the trainer, just taking a picture, it's really difficult, and that's something that people need to be aware of, especially now because there's a new rule. And moving on to that, I'll just explain what the new rule is. And that is, and it's very clear, there's no black or white, which may be more positive or not. And that is, the only individual who should not be wearing a face mask is the individual that is mounted on the horse. And that means you get on the horse, you take your face mask off. You get off the horse, you put your face mask on. There is no room for any time to not have the face mask on. So that means anyone who is there must wear a face mask at all times.
In the barn, at the ring, walking, in the tack room, anywhere on the showgrounds, basically.
Anywhere on the showgrounds except the riders. And they give you the TD will tell management, they will give you one warning if you have it off. And if you're caught the second time, you will be asked to leave the horse show.
Wow. For the day?
Yeah, that day. And so, you have to look at that as a trainer's perspective, because if I am not wearing a face mask and I have driven 4 horses there, I got to load them up and go. So my actions really affect other individuals if I'm asked to leave. And I think it's very hard because some individuals, working in a barn, working outside, may not wear a face mask all the time. And we're not healthcare providers. I think that's important. Like, we're all trying. I think most of us are trying. I've never not seen anyone at any of these horse shows not trying. Sure. We're just not used to wearing a mask 24/7. And especially in the heat at this last horse show we were at, it was 85 degrees.
Yeah.
And we're unloading the trailer. To me, I don't think that's healthy. Getting hot, but we're not around anyone. And so also when you come off your horse and you're really hot, you have to put the face mask on, and it's aerobic, like you work. And I think we need oxygen. A lot of times, I know even myself, when riding, I come off the horse, I've held my breath for my performance, and now I catch air. And so, you don't get 5 minutes. You need to put the mask on.
So it makes you want to stay on the horse while you catch your breath, because the minute you get off, you have to mask up.
Yeah. And as a coach, I wanted to be on a horse. I wanted to bring a second horse, but yeah, you can't. And so I think it's really important that they're not fooling around. I do think USEF, I think they have scared the officials, the show management. They do send out threatening emails saying that this is a privilege, and they are correct, and they will take it away if we are not following the rules.
Are they? Do they have monetary fines? You think about it. So the show, the owners of the show are the show managers, and they pretty much own the dates, and so this is their. Most of the time, this is their livelihood. Mm-hmm. And I have to say the same thing would probably ring too for your technical delegates and your judges. I mean, they do not want to get a violation or a fine from USEF. So hyper vigilant probably about this stuff so that they don't get in trouble for accidentally something.
Honestly, I felt the very first show, I mean, obviously this is new for everyone. This is new for management. They've never had to manage something like this. The TDs have never had to enforce something like this. competitors have never competed like this. And so I think it's really new for everyone, and it going to two different shows and seeing a management between two different shows has been enlightening. But I do think being realistic, that's the thing I really wanted to impress upon people, is under those conditions, if you don't fare well, don't go to the horse show.
Hey, Connor. Thanks,
Hi,
buddy.
Connor. You know,
Yeah, that's tough. So, it's a lot of pressure from USEF on is it you think it's more on show management or more on the technical delegate? Or you think
I think it's both. I think it's both. And I also think the county is not helping as well. I think that puts an added stress on top of those show organizers.
Any city, town, county, or state ordinance has to be followed.
Yeah. And so I think being realistic, going to the horse shows, trying to do your best. And I have to say, I felt going to the horse show that I really truly tried to do my best and do my part. It was frustrating as a coach because when I went out to the warm-up arena and we have little earbuds and I'm coaching with my mask on, a couple of my students couldn't hear me. And now they have some big goals. And it was really important that I coach them, and they couldn't hear me. And so I took my mask off and I held my mask here so that way they could still hear me. And I walked to the other side of the warm-up arena, and I was 100 feet away from everybody else. And the TD came over and told me I was wearing my mask incorrectly. And I said, okay, I understand. However, I still have face covering. I'm not near anyone, and my student can't hear me. And she had said that I was wearing the mask improperly, which I don't know. I mean, it's face covering, and you're 100 feet away. I don't know. But the client, all of us have spent a lot of time, money, energy in being here, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that I can't coach my student, and I don't know, when you're away, it's a bit illogical. But I think it's important even for coaches to understand the pressure, because this wasn't my first show. I knew how much stress these people are under, right? I was prepared for this. And when this incident happened, I became quite angry because I thought it was illogical, and I felt I was doing my best to be a part of the team. I wasn't trying to be difficult, and trust me, I don't want to stand here for 30 minutes and hold my mask up there, but I also want to coach my student. Mm-hmm. So again, it's really important to understand the rules and how much they truly are enforcing it. If USEF is thinking that the TDs are not enforcing it or show management, they really are. Almost to the point where it might be a little bit illogical. Same thing with, as a coach, I have a problem with my students coming off the horse and they need to be able to breathe, whether there needs to be a separate area for people where they can catch some air and be away from someone. And I do understand why USEF probably made this rule. And reading some of the letters that people are not cooperating. And it makes it very black and white. It makes it very black and white to reinforce the rules. I do understand that. But again, I want people to know what they're getting into, because I knew what I was getting into, and I still became very frustrated and had to leave the horse show just to because it's just a melting pot. The whole world is in a melting pot. We've been locked up too long. So, really think about, do you really want to show? Is it worth it? Putting the stress on yourself, your horse, show management, the technical delegates. It's a lot.
So we should, you said something there, and I want to be clear because this will be, streamed on YouTube. It's going to be on demand. You said you had to leave the horse show. Do you mean that you voluntarily had to just kind of take a step away, or you were asked to leave?
No, I was not asked to leave.
Okay.
No, not at all. I comply by the rules. I would feel very badly if I got someone sick, first of all. And second, if I had to leave and my clients couldn't continue on competing. Like I came there for them. But no, I had to leave the horse show because I was very upset. Because I couldn't do my job and I felt I was complying. And so I think other people may feel that way. I don't know, as coaches, but just as riders, being realistic on what you're getting yourself into.
So does the rule mandate a face mask, or could you potentially have a full shield?
Well, the rules aren't clear, and that's what I'm getting for the next horse show. Is actually I have 2 shields coming in 2 days, so we're gonna try that. But if the TD says I can't wear that, then I can't wear that. So
do you think it's open to management and the TD for the day? It might be worth sending an email to USEF for clarification. Are face shields allowed, full face shields allowed, or do you have to mask and shield? Because
I look
probably echoey under a shield, but maybe your students would be able to hear you better. It's hard to know.
Yeah, maybe. I would hope they'd be able to. I mean, it's definitely an option. Personally, I would prefer to stay home. And if I didn't have a business and I didn't have clients that do want to show, I would stay home. I don't enjoy it at all.
Yeah.
I don't like putting myself under that stress. And so that's why I wanted to have the live stream to put it out there to people. There's been a lot of talk about the competitions and competitions being canceled. And, I think it's an opportunity to put people at risk. It's okay that it's being canceled. It truly is a great privilege that we get to go to these horse shows, but we don't need to. And that's the thing I really feel strongly about, that we are very fortunate and it's okay to stay home.
Well, so let's talk about the event that triggered these, deeper, more, difficult rules, which was, they ended up having to, as we mentioned earlier, cancel pony finals. And that was down at the Kentucky Horse Park. And there was obviously a lot of social media discussion on this because, pony finals, it's kids. And there were some pictures. I saw a picture of these kids kind of together, hugging each other, crying. And what struck me as ironic was those kids weren't masked. And we should mention that the reason why pony finals was canceled wasn't because, nobody was compliant and they were just mad. It was because they had people come up positive for COVID at the showgrounds. Mm-hmm. And they had people who had been on the showgrounds, all over the showgrounds, who were actively had active, the virus active. They were tested positive. They were sick. They were shedding the virus. So their reasoning for shutting it down was that they had to disinfect the entire showgrounds before it would be safe to allow competitors to return. And that's impossible when you have, potentially 500 to 1,000 ponies, and you've got grooms and trainers and riders. The horses need to be cared for. So you cannot disinfect a showgrounds as enormous as the Kentucky Horse Park is, with all the barns, the stabling areas, the show, the bathrooms, you name it, quick enough, to allow for, horses need to be tended to throughout the day and the evening. And they had to have everybody go home. There was just going to be no feasible, logical way to disinfect that whole showgrounds while there was, you know, living creatures in
Yeah,
or around the
you
area.
can't.
So, you know, it was unfortunate. And yes, you know, everybody's like, well, that's a shame on them for doing this to the children. But, you know, like I said, I did find it ironic that the pictures put on social media of kids crying and hugging each other, these kids were not wearing masks. So this is what happens is when you have a whole bunch of kids who are not adhering to the mask rule, and you got a positive or two positives or however many that they ended up having, it becomes a super spreader event. And of course, we've seen this in the news. You know, you look at the southern states with the beaches and the giant, massive number of positive cases, like Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, the Carolinas, you know, all along the beaches, all the way even to, you know, California, Texas, you name it. I mean, these big events like this, and Pony Finals is big. That is an enormous hunter jumper event. You know, and USEF wasn't going to allow that to be a super spreader event. So they just had to do what they had to do. So, you know, very unfortunate. I understand why people are disappointed. It costs a lot of money to qualify to go to Pony Finals.
Mm-hmm.
It costs a lot of money to go and arrive and show at Pony Finals, and to have that canceled pretty quickly. And I thought they got one day of showing in. I thought they were just starting, or had they all just kind of arrived? I thought they had a day of showing going, but I'm not sure.
I don't know. I do know I've had the same experience. I traveled to California this winter, and I left my business for 3 months. I paid a lot of money to be in training. I signed up for 2 shows. I was able to compete in the first CDI. And then in the second CDI, they canceled 5 days before the show due to COVID. So I actually had the same experience. I was fully refunded. I felt terrible for the show management, but quite frankly, it's life.
Yeah. And you know, you
You
think
know?
about it, they already had all the officials. And I mean, there are going to be a lot of judges at a big show like Pony Finals who are flying in from across the country. And you have a lot of, you know, stewards, ring stewards, show stewards. You know, they have slightly different names for their, you know, we have technical delegates, they have stewards and so on. But a huge amount of volunteers, you know, office staffing, everybody's coming in, and then boom,
Yeah,
everybody's turn around and leave. You have all these hotel rooms booked. So
it's
very unfortunate
it's
situation.
very
No
unfortunate.
great answers to it, because the last thing USEF wants to be as the governing body for equestrian Olympic sports is thrown in the news for being holding a super spreader event.
Yeah, I mean, how would all the parents and the relatives, the grandparents that may come and visit, how would they feel if they found out after the competition that there were 4 people with COVID there? You know,
Everybody's in and out of the show office. You've got the
yeah,
food vendors. Everybody's visiting the food vendors.
I think,
You've got tack vendors. You know, all the equipment vendors are
yeah,
there. It is very unfortunate, and it's just a bad situation. And you know, I think certain equestrian sports are going along and just doing what they're doing. I know NSBA, which is a National Snaffle Bit Association, is still having, you know, a lot of shows. There are a lot of quarter horse shows going on. However, like we mentioned earlier, the largest show and, you know, horse show in the world, which is the American Quarter Horse Congress, is canceled this year, and that has never happened. Millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. It's bigger than Equine Affair. You know, Midwest Horse Fair pales in comparison. This is a entire month of showing, and you know, because it's a American Quarter Horse Associated or Association event, or it's not, you know, they're not running it, but it's affiliated with that breed. They didn't want to be associated with the super spreader event. You know, all these people coming in and out, you know, people show up for a week to 10 days at a time. You've got trainers bringing different clients in throughout the whole month. They just saw no feasible way to make that show happen. And again, what a horrible situation to be put in. And it's a terrible, you know, it's a terrible situation. I mean,
all of it is. Yeah. I
it's
mean,
unfortunate.
and
So,
I think people are just trying to do the best they can. But it's tough to go to a competition competing in this COVID.
And you talked about signing or a release or whatever, but this pandemic is so new and current. There really hasn't been any real shakeout as far as say pony finals. Let's just hypothetically say it hadn't been canceled and it became a super spreader event. There's the whole potential shakeout for lawsuits of who's responsible. Well, you knew you had people and you decided to keep it going, and then you could have, if you've got 1,000 competitors, you could have 1,000 different lawsuits suddenly. It's just not feasible, and it's so unfortunate. So
it's very unfortunate.
Obviously, we're still talking about weekend shows. 3-day shows are 2-day, 3-day shows are happening. Excuse me. But it's difficult. You have to mask up as you are. Is it when you get out of your car, or is it as you're driving through the gates?
It says you're driving through the gates.
So in your car, you need to be masked up.
Yeah.
So that's legit. So do they have anybody, gate checking, I guess you would call it, driving?
Yeah. Yeah. When we entered the one horse show, someone is there. You cannot pass. She takes your temperature. You sign all the paperwork, and then you can go. The other show did not. I don't know with the rule change if that'll be different. I'll know next week when we go. And I think the thing to remember too is that USEF might suspend all shows if these continue to happen. So, like I said, I think
and
yeah,
causing too many problems. USEF, they'll cancel all shows, which means the scores are never recognized for anything. They can't be recognized for national awards.
Well, I don't think the shows are going to host if it's suspended. At least the national shows.
Yeah. So, it's unfortunate. I was hoping we'd have a few more people pop on that could talk about some of their, their experiences. You've been to a few shows, like you said, but you haven't been to a ton.
No.
And probably don't plan on going to a whole ton.
No, I think we've been to 3.
Okay. So, let's talk about, let's just say, okay, current rules enacted, everybody's playing fairly. USEF continues to allow horse shows, to occur. Will there be, when is regionals for the Midwest here? Your region 2?
Next month. I think it's the third week. I'm curious to see. Right now it's a go. But who knows?
Yeah. What about nationals? Is that October or November?
That's November. In 11 days, we have the Festival of the Champions. And I read an article that said the USEF doesn't even know if that will be held. Wow. So I can't imagine all of those competitors. I think it's around 200 horse and rider combinations is what I read in the article, that are traveling from all over the country.
Will that be at Lamplight in Illinois?
Mm-hmm, yeah. Yeah. And there's a quarantine for certain states to come into Illinois. So, it just makes life difficult. This corona has
all of Illinois. I thought that was just Chicago. I guess I wasn't sure.
I'm not sure.
It could be very well the state. I guess I haven't paid that close of attention because I haven't wanted to travel. So that's not good. Yeah, you think about it. If you're coming from a state that has got a real surge, California, Texas, Florida, where they're seeing these big spikes, they could potentially, if Illinois mandates a statewide mandatory quarantine coming from those states, those people would need to be in quarantine right now. If you're saying it's in 10, 11 days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's not.
I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
Because they just put the quarantine on. I don't know how this all works. So, but we're waiting to see what transpires.
That's crazy. It's mind boggling,
It is.
uncharted territory, so to speak, really. I mean, in my lifetime, we've never experienced anything quite like this.
Nothing. I've never have. This is wild.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and there's just no great answers other than you have to wear a mask. And now, an interesting side note that could potentially make it even more challenging is, you're hearing news and you're reading news and you're seeing it on the television. Everybody's probably heard of Dr. Fauci. He is recommending now that people wear goggles or the full face shield because apparently you can get the virus through your eyes, is what it sounds. So they're suggesting, covering up your eyes, goggles, or the full blown face shield. So, I mean, that could, if that takes hold and becomes some states may mandate that as well. Not only just mandatory mask wearing, but it could be full mask or mask and goggles, or so that would be challenging.
That would be very challenging.
I feel fortunate I don't wear glasses. Because I know all my friends who wear glasses, they're constantly having fogging issues, and there's just, I don't know how you deal with that.
I don't either.
How would you do? How do you think you would do? Would you maybe do mask and a goggles, full face shield?
At the horse show?
Yeah.
If that was the rule, I would have to. Yeah. As I said, I'd like to stay home.
Absolutely. Yeah, so a lot of people are, and I have to say, Megan, I feel very badly on all levels for people and children, especially who are having milestones this year. You think about earlier this spring, children and young adults graduating, graduating whatever grade graduation. I think there's 8th grade graduation in a lot of places that get celebrated, but high school graduates that spent their final semester, their senior year at home, being homeschooled, not able to have an actual traditional graduation. Same thing for college students. That's terrible.
Yeah.
But bringing it back to the equestrian world, we have junior young riders, and so a lot of kids are aging out of young riders this year.
Yep. And we also have young horses and young horse competitions, that are based on their ages. You only get 1 year.
Yeah, 3-year-old, 5 and 6-year-olds. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said before, and I don't mean it as callously, but life, it is life. There are disappointments.
Yeah.
I think these things happen for a good reason, that we don't take for granted the freedoms that we do have.
Yes.
I think that's important, that we are very fortunate that we can talk about missing a show, whereas there are some people who are losing their jobs or their lives. And so I think, like I said, as I reflect from the horse show, with the frustrations, these are first world issues. And that in the end, I do feel very fortunate to be able to go to horse shows and to, spend days with horses. And I think that's so important that we realize that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, I agree. I mean, for horses trying to show 3-year-old material, 4-year-old material, or a 5 or 6-year-old young horse, so they miss out for a year. If they're truly a developing horse, they will go on and do better things. But it is very hard. You only graduate high school and college once. Well, high school once, college you can go on for extra degrees and go for that. You get your bachelor's, you can get your master's and your PhD. So there are options there. And I have to say, I have a very good friend who defended his doctoral thesis late last December. So he didn't get the cutoff. He didn't meet the cutoff in time to make the fall December graduation. So he was slated to be in the spring graduation this year, and of course,
nope,
didn't happen. So worked his whole life to get his PhD, and it was kind of a letdown. I do surely feel bad, but yeah, at the end of the day, we should be fortunate enough that we are alive healthy,
Yeah.
hopefully,
Yep. Yep.
and able to do the things we can do. And I am a full-blown supporter of wearing a mask. I just don't see that it's worth fighting over. It's not. For me, it's not an infringement on my person. It really is not. I feel fortunate. I don't have breathing issues, and I think most of the times the laws and localities, whatever, that are putting these ordinances say if you have a medical condition, you can opt out. But at the same point in time, you wouldn't want to really be out in public. But I was fortunate enough. I think I've mentioned it on prior live streams. I was able to work from home for 2 months, kind of when this all hit. I was still full-time employed. I feel very fortunate, but I have to say I was called back to work June 1st, and I was mildly terrified to be going back out into a large office environment. And at that time, the state I live in, the city, the county I lived in, there were no like mandatory masking ordinances like there are, you see a lot more of it now. But my decision was, when I was going to go back and be in an office with a lot of people, and we have like 100 people in our office, I just decided I was going to be wearing a mask all the time, unless I'm drinking or eating. But, so these state mandated, county, city, whatever, township mandated ordinances, to me, it really hasn't affected me, because I made that decision and that was to protect myself and others, mainly to protect myself and my family as best I could.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people seem to find it to be this great offense on their person, but that's a shame, because I don't find it to be that difficult. Now, I'm fortunate. I don't work outside in a hot environment, but most of them, the ordinances I have read in my area, my county, and my state, it's mandated when you're inside a building. So, if you're riding outside at a horse show, that doesn't qualify under my local rules or my state rules, but obviously we're talking USEF has drawn the line. So, if I was a maybe construction worker working outside in the heat, you're generally not mandated to wear a mask, I think, unless you're in a really confined area with a lot of people. But
yeah, and the CDC is one or the other, 6 feet or wear a mask. Yeah. So, but the USEF, it's important to know, if you're going to go to a horse show, these are the rules, and if you don't abide by them, they will ask you to leave the premises.
Yeah. And I think they will even call law enforcement, to escort you off the premises if you refuse. If you refuse, I mean, at that point, your horse isn't showing anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Leave.
sticking around and throwing a tantrum isn't going to do you any good, because you pretty much have disqualified. If you're asked to leave, you're pretty much disqualified from the show under USDF rules. So.
Yeah, and for me, at the shows I experienced, everyone was compliant. I mean, I didn't see anyone, but I also stayed to myself. I wasn't, I didn't watch the show, only in the areas I was, like when I was in the warm up, everyone had a mask on. I thought everyone was trying to do their best.
Did you hear a lot of grumbling about it?
No, because I really didn't talk to anyone outside my group. I mean, other than me, I was grumbling. Yeah, I fully admit it, because like I said, I think some of it is illogical when you're not standing anywhere near anyone. Trying to coach my students. When my students come off their horse, I think they need to have the mask off for, I don't know, 20 minutes. But I have no problem with them putting it back on. But yeah, when we're not near anyone. But again, USEF probably made that rule so that it was very clear.
Yeah, and you can't say, well, Pony Finals is going to have, at any point in time, there's probably 8,000 people on the showgrounds, but this local recognized 2-day recognized dressage show may have 100 people on the showgrounds, or 250. So
or 30.
Or 30. Yeah, I mean, so they can't really say, well, show size, because nobody's going to be like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we're under
Right.
this number. They can't do that. And that gets to be silly too. So I understand where they're coming from, because, the more people on a showgrounds, the bigger the spreader festival it could be. But, I think the answer to people needing to recover, you're going to have to stay on the horse.
Yeah.
Not fair to the horse, but maybe you walk out, maybe you have to go to the warm-up arena and cool down and just have your horse walk. And it's good for the horse to go walk after a tough class. Go walk them for 20 minutes. If that's what you got to do to get your breath back without putting a mask on, it's not normal. And it may not be what, the best thing ever, but
that's what you got to do.
If that's what you got to do, and you need to get your air, that's maybe what you got to do.
Yeah. And like I said, I, as a coach, after this show, I'm going to change some things. I'm going to try the face shield and, again, still abiding the rules and, making little changes, but that's what we're all going to have to do.
That's crazy. Don't you think it's crazy?
Yes. Yes, I do.
So your next horse show, are you going to the festival or?
No, I'm going to a local show next week for my students.
So this coming weekend?
Next weekend.
Okay, so you got about 10 days to, things may change.
Yeah, exactly. We may not get to show, we may get to show, who knows? Wow. I don't think they're going to lessen the rules. I think the next step is to stop shows altogether. As you see one show after the next be canceled,
Is the Festival of Champions, is that the same weekend you're going to a show, or would it be the following?
And I think it's the following.
I'm just wondering if, if they end up, canceling that, will it be like finals where they cancel one show, or if they're just going to have, there's just so much going on in the news with so many states. I think it's hard for them to say, well, these states are doing great, so they can have shows, but these states are not. I think they probably leave that up to the states themselves. But so you said the one show where they were really, 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 taking your temperature, asking quizzes. You said the pressure was on the show management by the localities.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They didn't want them to have that event.
Yep. And I heard, whether any of this is true, I don't have no idea, that officials actually did come to check and make sure that they were following the rules. So, I mean, just imagine running a horse show under that much pressure.
Wow.
I mean, that has to be awful. I mean, I'm very appreciative of them for even hosting the shows at all. And then I'm also on the flip side, like I said, as a clinic organizer, at the end of the day, it wasn't worth it to me. But, maybe it's their livelihood, and so, again, that's why I always try to reflect after the horse show, and I reflect about, how it went, and always just think about that.
So some more minutia details people might be curious about. Let's get into a little bit more details about the horse show. So usually you've got a judge and a scribe sitting in a booth together, be it a car, a horse trailer, or an actual, physical booth, or, what did they do at the shows you have been at? How did they keep the distancing with the judge and the scribe? Were they masked? Were they still together and masked? I mean, how did the shows you've been to, you said you've been to 3, how did they coordinate that?
The judge is in the hut, and the scribe is in the show office, and they're both on phones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How do they do that? Because the judge has to sign off on the test.
Yeah, it made it
and
disorganized. Yes, it was a cluster.
Wow. Now, is that at all 3 shows?
At 2, I didn't pay attention to the first one, honestly.
Wow, because they could probably have them on a phone and maybe just have a scribe sitting in an empty booth nearby, or an empty vehicle nearby, or at a table and under a tent somewhere nearby. Wow, that's so. How how was the distancing maintained and dealt with as far as running the show, like the office experience?
The office, well, the one office, they have a trailer, and that usually you could go in the trailer. You were not allowed in the trailer, and it was actually quite convenient. They have a little window, and they have stones placed out 6 feet apart, so you all have to be separate, and then they just handed your test through the window. There was hand sanitizer outside the barns, the porta potty, and as we were waiting in the show office. They did post scores at a separate area. So that was that show. The other show, um, we could go into the show office. No one was in there, only one person at a time. There was hand sanitizer outside the office, and there were stones. So if we had to wait in line.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Now, were any of them big enough to have any kind of food vendors, or was it just fare for yourself or leave and go get food?
The one show did not have a food vendor. The other one had a food vendor. They had lines made up where they hadn't before. There was no seating. And then they also had stones out, where we had to stand. And then there was also hand sanitizer.
Wow. Okay. So a little different. Was anything else remarkably different for the show experience? I mean, we've kind of covered the fact that, anywhere you are on the grounds, you have to have mask on and, trying to be socially distanced. Was the spectating down? What did they have for, usually there's places for spectators to sit, bleachers or what have you. Did they have that, or had they marked those off? No bleachers, no, really not allowed to watch.
We could not sit in the bleachers.
Okay. That was shut off.
That there also the one show, we walk up and we're by the arenas, and what they had was only the coach and I think a groom and the rider and the horse are allowed up. The other show is very open. And at their fence, the fence posts I think are more than 6 feet apart. So people could stand there.
Okay. So yeah, very different experience.
Very different.
Interesting. Well, that's it's a shame, but understandable. So, well, we're coming on an hour here. I think this has been an interesting chat. It's we may have to circle back around to this over the next month to see what happens with USEF as they're experiencing these larger shows are starting to pop up across the country now, like Pony Club I keep saying Pony Club Pony Finals. But some of the regional championships are canceled already. But as you said, festivals coming up closer, and as regionals start to pop up, the pressure's, I guess, on USEF to figure out how they're going to do this.
Yep. So we're going to find out.
Well, any crystal ball things that you want to say that you think may or may not happen?
No, I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm along for the ride. I'm going to
hope for the best.
Roll with it.
Okay, so I'm going to put this out there to you and put you on the spot. You probably have clients that are qualified for regionals, right?
Yeah.
If it happens, are you guys going to go?
Yeah.
Take the risk and go.
I'm not qualified.
But you have your student's qualified and your student wants to go, are you
going? Yep.
Yeah. What do you think?
I'm going to wear my mask and wash my hands.
Marinate in hand sanitizer, and anytime you can get near soap and water.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Wow. Now, let's say you guys get through regionals and it goes through well, and the next step would be nationals. Would you go to nationals if somebody's qualified for nationals and wants to go?
Probably, but I don't think it's going to happen now that Kentucky is closed.
Well, they closed the one horse show because they had to disinfect the showgrounds.
They closed the next one as well. I don't know the name of it, but the next one that's being held in Kentucky. So
right, Equifest, but that's understandable. I think people were always the trainers. A lot of them were staying, and they got to clear the showgrounds out in order to actually sanitize.
yeah,
And think about how big the Kentucky Horse Park is,
huge,
and
huge.
obviously the property is huge, but the facilities that are a part of all the shows, it's enormous, and to be able to sanitize everything. Long time to that's a long time to happen. So
Huge.
I would think that all the outdoor stabling, you would think at some point just airing it out. I mean, Mother Nature provides weather, UV, light, and just the fact that the virus doesn't stay living forever on surfaces. You would think that would be the easy part. It's going to be all the bathrooms, the show offices, all that stuff.
Stabling that isn't ventilated.
That's the hard, all the indoor stuff.
Yeah,
difficult. The doorknobs and the faucets, and all that.
Yeah.
Times.
Good talk. Good talk.
Yeah. Well, thank you. This is interesting. I was hoping we would get a few questions in the live chat, but maybe it's better that we don't.
Who knows?
I think people are still a little in shock and a little concerned, and
all of the above.
Yeah. So thanks, Megan, for
you're welcome
showing up for this and talking about your experiences. It's been an interesting 2020.
Yeah.
It's not over yet.
No.
What's on your bingo card for August? What do you got for, we've had, what have we had? We've had murder hornets, all kinds of crazy things. Giant spiders. I have sea monsters for August.
Bigfoot.
We've got an active hurricane season. I figure there's one ripping up the East Coast right now. I figure maybe we'll get these mega hurricanes will stir it up, and we'll get some sort of some monster from the deep that's going to stir up some crazy sea monster, and that's going to be our on our August bingo card.
All right, let's do it. I'm ready. Saddle up.
It is 2020, so all right. Before you go, I always like to ask, Megan, how can people find you?
They can find me on the internet at Lindinhof.com. They can find me on Facebook, Lindinhof Equine Sports Syndrome. They can find me on YouTube under Lindinhof 1. And then they can give me a call at 608-445-8531 or email at lindinhofllc@gmail.com.
Do I have it right on the screen?
Sure do.
All right. So everybody take note of how Lindinhof is spelled. And you said Lindinhof.com?
Yeah.
Or LLC?
Lindinhof.com.
And then your email was lindinhofllc@gmail.
You got it.
Okay. So, and again, she said she's got a Facebook page. All you got to do is search that right there on the screen on Facebook. You'll find her page. You can give her a like. You can message her through the page, and go from there. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks again, Megan. So we should talk before we let you go. We have a bit of a plan for next week that, weather permitting, we're gonna attempt to execute live.
Let's do it.
We want to tell everybody what we're doing.
You're gonna have a tour of Lindinhof. Yay!
So weather permitting, scheduling permitting, I am going to be traveling to Megan's location to attempt to pull off our live stream in person. We will be masked, obviously, and trying to maintain our 6+ feet of social distancing. But my plan is, and I will bring up my little flexi tripod, and I will attempt to go live with my cell phone, and we will get a full-blown tour, hopefully, weather permitting, and hopefully connectivity permitting.
It's going to be amazing. Let's do it.
You know, I know you live out in the middle of nowhere, and I understand that sometimes cell reception is a little sketchy. So hoping I can borrow some Wi-Fi connectivity to attempt to make this live stream happen.
It's going to be brilliant.
So folks, that's the tentative plan for next week. We're still looking at Tuesday, correct? Next week?
Yeah, let's do it. So
everybody, fingers crossed that all the stars align. I think this is going to be a lot of fun to see, weather permitting, maybe see how you've got a few things outside laid out. If that doesn't happen, at least see, I'm really curious to see, you've got a fairly new indoor arena.
Yep.
I want to ask you a lot of questions about that, see how you designed it, see the features that you thought about, and put into it. And then obviously the tour of the barn, tack rooms, your veterinary area, and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think this is great. So you've talked a lot about training barns. For people who are just catching this, we have a prior live stream. If you go under the playlist, look us up. Megan talked a lot about her training barn situation and why she does things the way she does. So hopefully we'll be able to kind of wrap that discussion up next week into a live stream at your place.
Yeah.
So I'm pumped. I hope the stars aligned and we can make this happen. So fingers crossed. Yeah. All right, lady. Have a very nice night and have a great weekend and the rest of your week. Actually, it's only Tuesday, so have a great week and weekend next weekend. And I hope to see you in person a week from tonight to do that.
All right.
So
goodbye. Thank you.
Yep. All right, guys. Thanks again so much for joining us. For those of you, again, who are watching this on demand on YouTube, appreciate it so much. If you'll give the video a thumbs up, leave any questions that you might have down below in the comment section. You can find, again, the details on how to connect to Megan or myself below in the description below. And then, again, also ask you to, support the channel, subscribe, click the bell. You will be notified of my new uploads. And of course, anytime we are preparing to go live as well. So hope everybody stays happy, healthy, COVID-free, enjoying your summer as we go into fall here. And again, hopefully the stars will align and we will be live on, on the grounds of Lindinhof, hopefully next week, Tuesday. So please check in with us and join us for that live screen or stream. And I will see you guys all next week and on, some upcoming videos I'm going to be releasing this week. So bye, guys. Have a great one. Thanks again.